my ultrasound, the doctor started shaking. She grabbed my wrist, pulled me into a side office, locked the door, and whispered, "You need to leave your husband. Tonight. File for divorce." I stared at her. Why? She turned the monitor toward me and said, "No time to explain. You'll understand when you see this." What I saw made my blood boil. If you love intense American-style revenge stories with shocking twists, make sure you subscribe, because my life split into two halves that morning, and everything after that became a war. I had driven to Mercy West Medical Center before sunrise, thinking about baby names and nursery colors. It was one of those calm California mornings in Irvine, where the sky looks too perfect to hold any bad news. My husband, Ethan Brooks, was supposed to meet me there. He had promised. He always promised. But 20 minutes before my appointment, his text popped up. "Emergency meeting. Love you. We'll celebrate tonight." I didn't think much of it. Ethan was a corporate attorney in Los Angeles. Emergencies were part of his life. Still, sitting alone in the waiting room, watching couples laugh and argue over baby names, something inside me felt uneasy. Like a warning I couldn't explain. When they called my name, I walked into the ultrasound room smiling. Dr. Claire Bennett greeted me warmly. She had been my doctor since week 8. Calm voice, gentle hands, the kind of doctor who made everything feel safe. She dimmed the lights, spread the gel across my stomach, turned on the monitor. "There's your baby," she said softly. The tiny heartbeat flickered on the screen. I smiled, then she froze. Her hand stopped moving. She zoomed in, zoomed out, clicked through files, checked something on her tablet. Her breathing changed. I asked quietly, "Is my baby okay?" She said, "Yes, your baby is perfectly healthy." But her voice sounded wrong. Tight, scared. She stared at the screen like she was looking at a ghost. Then she whispered, "I need to check something. Stay here." She walked out, and for the first time in my life, I felt fear crawl up my spine for no reason at all. When she came back, she closed the door behind her, locked it, pulled the curtain, and told me to divorce my husband. I laughed at first. I actually laughed. "Doctor, what are you talking about?" She didn't answer. She turned the monitor toward me. There were hospital files open, insurance information, patient records, and there, under spouse name, was mine. But it wasn't my file. It was another woman's. Pregnant. Due in 6 weeks. Insurance billed under Ethan Brooks' policy. Emergency contact Ethan Brooks. Spouse listed Emily Brooks. Me. My stomach dropped. "There's a mistake," I said. She shook her head. I checked 3 times. She opened another document, a scanned driver's license photo. The woman's name was Madison Cole. My cousin. The girl who stayed with us last Christmas. The girl who hugged me when I announced my pregnancy. The girl who called Ethan family. My hands started shaking so hard I couldn't breathe. But Dr. Bennett wasn't done. She opened an image attachment, a photo. Ethan smiling with Madison, his hand resting on her pregnant belly. The timestamp was from 2 months ago. 2 months ago he told me he was in Chicago for a trial. The room spun. I whispered, "Maybe it's fake. Maybe someone stole his identity." She opened bank authorization files. Transfers from our joint account. Hospital payments. Prenatal expenses. Apartment rent. All paid to Madison Cole. My blood turned to fire. My husband wasn't cheating by accident. He was building another family with my cousin, using my name, my insurance, my money, my life. I felt something break inside me so quietly I didn't even cry. Dr. Bennett grabbed my hand. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have shown you this, but the insurance fraud could put you in legal trouble too. You needed to know." I nodded slowly. Then I asked for copies. When I walked out of the hospital into the bright morning sun, the world looked fake. Cars moved like toys. People laughed like actors. Everything I believed about my marriage was a lie. I sat in my car for an hour without starting it. I remembered our wedding in San Diego, Ethan promising forever. I remembered Madison crying in my arms saying she'd never seen a love like ours. I remembered trusting them both with my whole heart, and suddenly I understood something terrifying. They never loved me. They needed me. That afternoon, Ethan called. "How'd the scan go, babe?" I smiled into the phone. "Perfect. Baby's healthy." He laughed happily. And in that moment, I decided something cold and final. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to destroy him. That night, he came home smiling, holding flowers, kissing my forehead like he always did. I hugged him tight, cooked his favorite steak, listened to his lies about meetings and deadlines. And while he talked, I memorized everything. Because the war had started, and Ethan Brooks had no idea his wife already knew the truth. And this was only the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Ethan snored beside me like a man with nothing to hide, one arm thrown over his head, breathing slow and peaceful. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our marriage like a crime scene. The lies, the late meetings, the business trips, the way Madison laughed too loud at his jokes. Every memory suddenly had a shadow behind it. At 3:12 a.m., I slid out of bed, grabbed Ethan's phone from the dresser, and went into the bathroom. He never changed his passcode. It was still our wedding date. He thought love meant blind trust. He was wrong. The phone unlocked. The first thing I saw was a text from Madison. "Madison, she suspects anything?" "Ethan? No. Emily trusts me completely." I almost dropped the phone, but I didn't cry. I scrolled. There were hundreds of messages. Hotel bookings, ultrasound photos, baby name lists, apartment rental confirmations, photos of dinners, vacations, kisses. They were building a life together, a life funded by me. Then I saw an address. A condo in Santa Monica. I copied it into my phone. I checked the banking app next. Thousands of dollars transferred every week. Furniture stores, jewelry shops, medical payments at Mercy West Medical Center. My hands went cold. He wasn't cheating by accident. He was planning a replacement. I put the phone back exactly where it was and returned to bed. Ethan rolled over and hugged me in his sleep. I stared into the darkness and whispered, "You're going to regret this." The next morning, I kissed him goodbye like nothing was wrong. Then I drove straight to Santa Monica. The condo building was modern glass and steel, overlooking the ocean. Expensive, quiet, private, perfect for secrets. I sat in my car across the street for an hour. Then I saw them. Ethan walked out holding Madison's hand. She was visibly pregnant. He kissed her forehead. I felt my chest explode with rage, but I stayed still, because revenge needs patience. They got into his car and drove away. I followed them all the way to a boutique baby store in Beverly Hills. They laughed while picking out tiny clothes. He never did that with me. Not once. I took pictures, videos, receipts from the trash outside the store. Evidence. By afternoon, I had everything I needed to destroy him legally. But I didn't want just divorce, I wanted truth. So I did something dangerous. I knocked on the condo door that evening. Madison opened it. For a moment she looked happy. Then she saw me. Her face turned white. "Emily, what are you doing here?" I smiled sweetly. "Can I come in?" She stepped back automatically, shocked. I walked inside. There were baby toys everywhere, framed photos of Ethan on the wall, ultrasound pictures on the fridge, my husband's second home, my cousin's stolen life. I turned to her calmly. "How long?" She started crying instantly. "Emily, I can explain." The front door opened. Ethan walked in, and when he saw me standing in that living room, his face drained of color. For the first time in our marriage, Ethan Brooks looked afraid. I folded my arms and said quietly, "Let's talk." Ethan stared at me like he'd seen a ghost. Madison kept crying, clutching her stomach, whispering, "Emily, please, please." I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just walked to the kitchen table, sat down, and placed a thick envelope in front of them. Photos from the baby store. Bank transfers. Hospital records. Screenshots of texts. Ethan's hand started shaking. For a man who could argue million-dollar cases in court without blinking, he suddenly couldn't speak. I leaned back in the chair and said calmly, "You have 5 minutes to tell me the truth. After that, I go to the police, your law firm, and the IRS." Madison sobbed louder. Ethan whispered, "Emily, it's not what you think." I smiled coldly. "You got my cousin pregnant. You used my insurance to pay her medical bills. You stole money from our joint account. Tell me what I'm misunderstanding." Silence. Then Madison said the words that changed everything. "He told me you couldn't have kids." My heart stopped. I looked at Ethan. He couldn't even look at me. Madison kept talking through tears. "He said your marriage was basically over, that you only stayed together for appearances, that he loved me, that you didn't want a baby." I laughed, a sharp, broken laugh that scared even me. Because 3 months earlier, Ethan had cried when we saw our baby's heartbeat for the first time. And now I understood. He wasn't just cheating, he was rewriting reality. I stood up slowly. "Congratulations," I said to them. "You deserve each other." I walked to the door. Ethan ran after me. "Emily, wait." I turned around and slapped him. Hard. The sound echoed in that perfect condo. "That," I said quietly, "was for lying to me. The rest is coming." And I left. I didn't drive home. I drove straight to downtown Los Angeles and walked into a law office I had researched months earlier when Ethan joked about prenups. The receptionist looked up nervously as I said, "I need a divorce lawyer. Tonight." Within 20 minutes, I was sitting across from Julia Grant at Grant & Holloway LLP, a woman with steel eyes and a calm voice. She read every document without interrupting. When she finished, she said one sentence, "You are about to win everything." For the first time that day, I breathed. She explained it slowly. Insurance fraud, financial theft, adultery affecting asset division, misuse of marital funds, identity falsification. Ethan wasn't just immoral, he was criminal. Julia leaned forward. "Do you want revenge or do you want justice?" I said. "Both." She smiled slightly. "Good answer." That night, I went home to our quiet house in the suburbs. Ethan wasn't there. He didn't text. He didn't call. He was hiding. I walked into the nursery we were building together. Half-painted walls, tiny crib still in the box, stuffed animals on a shelf. I sat on the floor and cried for the first time. Not for Ethan. For the life I thought I had. For the baby who deserved better parents. For the girl I used to be, before betrayal turned me into someone colder. After an hour, I wiped my tears and opened my laptop. Step 1. Freeze the joint accounts. Step 2. File for emergency separation. Step 3. Send evidence to his firm's ethics committee. Ethan worked at one of the biggest corporate firms in the city. If they saw this scandal, his career was finished. I hit send. And in that moment, I felt something strange. Peace. Because he had destroyed our marriage. But I was about to destroy his future. At 2:17 a.m., my phone rang. "Ethan." I answered. His voice sounded broken. "Emily, please, we need to talk." I said calmly. "We will, in court." He whispered, "You'll ruin my life." I looked at the ultrasound photo on my nightstand and said quietly, "You ruin mine first." And I hung up. I didn't know yet how far this war would go, how many lies would come out, or how dangerous Ethan would become once he realized what he was losing. But one thing was certain. Ethan showed up at the house the next morning like nothing had happened. He walked in with coffee and bagels from my favorite place, like this was just another Saturday in our quiet neighborhood outside Los Angeles. I was sitting at the dining table with my laptop open, documents spread out in neat stacks. He froze when he saw them. "Emily, we need to talk," he said carefully. I didn't look up. "You have exactly 3 minutes." He sat down slowly. His hands were shaking. "I messed up. I know I messed up. But this doesn't have to destroy us. We can fix this." I laughed. Not loud, not dramatic. Just tired. "You didn't mess up," I said quietly. "You built another family with my cousin. You stole money. You committed insurance fraud. You lied every single day. That's not a mistake, that's a plan. He swallowed. Madison means nothing. I love you. The lie sounded pathetic now. I pushed a document toward him. It was the official notice from Grant & Holloway LLP. Divorce filing. Asset freeze. Fraud investigation. His face turned gray. You already filed? Yes. He slammed his hand on the table. You're overreacting. I stood up slowly. You got my cousin pregnant while I was pregnant. There is no reaction big enough for that. For a moment, he looked like he might cry. Then something changed. His eyes went cold. You think you can ruin me? He said quietly. I'll fight you for every dollar. I smiled. You won't have any dollars left to fight with. He stared at me, confused. So I opened my laptop and showed him the email, sent to his firm's ethics board. With evidence attached, his breath stopped. You didn't, he whispered. I did. His job wasn't just important to him, it was his identity, his pride, his power, and I had just set it on fire. He grabbed his coat and stormed out without another word. I watched him go and felt nothing. No love, no sadness, only relief. That afternoon my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Madison. Her voice was shaking. Emily, please can we meet? I almost hung up, but then she said, he lied to me too. I paused. We met at a quiet cafe in Santa Monica near the ocean. Madison looked exhausted, pale, scared. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were texts from Ethan I hadn't seen. Promises he made her, lies he told about me, fake stories about our marriage. Even fake medical reports claiming I couldn't carry a pregnancy safely. I felt sick. He had played both of us, Madison whispered. He told me you were dangerous, that you'd take everything, that I needed to keep quiet until the baby was born. I looked at her stomach. My cousin, my betrayer, but also another victim. I said quietly, why show me this? Tears ran down her face. Because yesterday he told me to lie in court. He said if I didn't, he'd ruin me. I leaned back in my chair. For the first time, I saw the truth clearly. Ethan didn't love Madison. He didn't love me. He loved control. I said softly, testify against him. She nodded slowly. I will. And in that moment, Ethan Brooks' perfect double life began collapsing from both sides. 2 days later, his law firm called me. They wanted a meeting. At their glass tower downtown, the receptionist at Carter, Blake & Rowe looked nervous when she led me to the conference room. 3 senior partners sat waiting. One of them said, Mrs. Brooks, we received serious allegations about your husband. I slid the evidence across the table. Photos, transfers, hospital fraud records. Silence filled the room. Finally, the senior partner sighed. If this is verified, Ethan's career here is over. I nodded. It's all verified. When I left that building, I felt something shift. The first real crack in his world. That night, Ethan called again. This time his voice sounded different. Angry. You think you're winning, he said? You have no idea what I'm capable of. A chill ran down my spine. I realized something terrifying. Ethan Brooks was losing everything, and desperate men do dangerous things. I locked the doors, turned on the alarm, and for the first time I was afraid, because revenge had begun. The next morning I woke up to silence. No Ethan. No Madison. Just the soft hum of our suburban house in Los Angeles. I poured myself coffee and sat at the kitchen island, thinking about the moves I had made so far. Freezing the accounts, filing the divorce, sending evidence to his firm. It had been a start, but I knew Ethan wasn't done. He was dangerous. Calculated. And angry men with everything to lose make mistakes, but they also make threats. I checked my phone. A single text from Madison, he's acting weird. Be careful. I felt a chill. The next 2 days were a blur. Ethan appeared at the office once, trying to charm the firm's partners, but Julia Grant had anticipated it. Every move I had made was solid. No loopholes. My lawyer's calm voice echoed in my mind, he's going down. Don't let emotion cloud strategy. But emotion was impossible to ignore. Every time I saw baby clothes, tiny socks, ultrasound images, it reminded me of what he had tried to steal from me. Not just my money or trust, but my life, my family, my happiness. I spent those days planning. Every action he could take, I preempted. I traced every account, every transaction, every hotel he had booked with Madison. I even hacked into a private server they had been careless enough to use to store emails. There, I found conversations I hadn't seen before, plans for vacations, fake doctor appointments, excuses for me, and then, the shock. Madison had begun questioning him. She had realized he was lying to both of us. He had promised her a life while keeping me in the dark. That made her the perfect ally. Or at least a useful tool. I arranged a meeting with her again, this time in a secluded parking garage near Santa Monica. She arrived trembling, holding a folder filled with receipts, emails, and photos I hadn't yet seen. "Emily, he's planning something," she said. "I don't know what. He's dangerous when he's desperate." I nodded. We knew that already. But desperate men make mistakes. That's all we need. We spent hours going through evidence, noting every lie, every misstep. Madison started to break down completely, realizing she had been manipulated the same way I had. And then she said the words I had been waiting to hear. "I'll testify. I'll give everything I have to take him down." That night, I drove past Ethan's condo. The lights were off. He didn't know we had the upper hand yet. But soon, he would. And when he realized how thoroughly I had uncovered everything, how easily I could destroy him, legally, financially, and socially, he would panic. For the first time in months, I felt calm. I knew the next steps. I had the proof. I had the plan. And most importantly, I had control. The war wasn't over, not by a long shot, but the first victory had been won, and Ethan Brooks would never see it coming. The next morning, I woke to the faint sunlight spilling across our bedroom in Los Angeles, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me. I had a plan. I had Madison on my side, and most importantly, I had the leverage to make Ethan Brooks sweat. I checked my phone. Madison had sent another message. "He's meeting someone tonight. I don't know who." My mind raced. Who could he be meeting? A lawyer? Another accomplice? Or worse, a criminal who could complicate everything? I spent the day preparing. Every document was printed, every screenshot cataloged, every bank transfer highlighted. I created a timeline of his lies, a digital map of every location he had been with Madison. I even discovered a secondary phone he had been using for her. That little phone would be the key to every hidden secret. By evening, I parked my car across the street from a small nondescript cafe in Santa Monica. I had traced the number from Madison's messages. He was there waiting. 2 men in dark suits joined him. I watched from the safety of my SUV. Ethan looked tense, scanning the street constantly, not noticing the tiny black car with tinted windows observing him. He was finally humanized, stressed, fearful, exposed. Madison joined me via FaceTime, whispering updates. "He's meeting some guy. Looks like he's nervous." I whispered back, "Good. Let him feel it. Let him squirm." Then, the most satisfying part, I sent a copy of the evidence to Ethan's law firm. Every misstep, every lie, every transaction, partners who had been loyal to him received it instantly. By the time Ethan left the cafe, he was sweating. The 2 men walked away, leaving him alone. I trailed him safely, taking care not to be noticed. He stopped at an ATM, then a jewelry store, then a parking garage where Madison had told me he sometimes met secret contacts. I took photos from a distance, documenting everything, every movement, every expression, every sign of guilt. Finally, I returned home. I had everything I needed to strike the next blow, and I waited. It wasn't long before he called. His voice, once arrogant and smug, now carried a thin thread of panic. "Emily, this isn't over. You don't understand what you're doing." I smiled and replied calmly, "Oh, I understand perfectly, and soon everyone else will too." That night, I went through every document, every photo, every recorded transaction. The war had just escalated. I had won small victories, but the next phase, the one that would finally expose Ethan Brooks completely, was about to begin. And this time, there would be no chance for him to recover. By the time Monday morning arrived, I was ready. Ethan thought the threats were quiet, the evidence contained. He had no idea I was about to take the war directly to him, into the one place he thought he could control, his office. I parked my car across the street from Carter, Blake and Rowe, the glass tower rising like a monument to his arrogance. From inside, I could see people rushing in, coffee cups in hand, phones pressed to ears, lawyers, assistants, secretaries, all of them unaware of the storm about to hit their colleague. I walked in confidently, dressed in a tailored suit that made me look every bit as formidable as I felt. No one recognized the Emily Brooks they had met at casual firm events. This woman wasn't a victim. She was the executioner. The receptionist looked up nervously. "Can I help you?" "Yes." "I have an appointment with Mr. Ethan Brooks. It's urgent." She hesitated. "He's in a meeting?" I smiled coldly. "I'm sure he'll make time." Moments later, Ethan appeared, clearly startled to see me in the lobby. His eyes widened when he realized I wasn't alone. My briefcase bulged with documents and folders, the physical proof of every lie, every fraud, every betrayal he had committed. "Emily, what are you doing here?" His voice was tight. "This isn't the place," I cut him off. "Oh, it's exactly the place. Everyone here deserves to know the truth about you." His jaw tightened. "You don't know what you're doing." I smiled, unzipped my briefcase, and began laying evidence across the reception desk. Photos, transaction records, emails, text messages, even Madison's statements, all undeniable proof of his crimes and deception. People started to gather. Curiosity, murmurs. Phones started taking pictures. Ethan's firm was about to witness the first cracks of his empire. "This," I said loudly, making sure everyone could hear, "is Ethan Brooks. Adulterer, fraudster, thief, the man who used his wife's trust, her money, and her family to build a second life while hiding the truth from everyone." Ethan turned pale. "Emily, please," but the room was already buzzing. Colleagues whispered, shook their heads, stared at the documents. Partner stepped out, scanning the evidence. I could see their faces change. Shock, disbelief, then recognition. By the time I left, Ethan was cornered, pleading, sweating, trapped in the web he had spun himself. Outside, I breathed in the air like a conqueror. One battle had ended. One war had begun. By midweek, Ethan Brooks was in full panic mode. He no longer answered my calls or texts. He stopped coming home. But I didn't need him to. I had the leverage. I had the evidence. And most importantly, I had a plan to destroy him publicly, slowly and perfectly. Madison and I met in a small, dimly lit cafe in Santa Monica. She looked exhausted, pale, and terrified. But for the first time, I saw resolve in her eyes. She had realized the magnitude of Ethan's deception, and she wanted out. "Emily," she whispered, sliding a manila envelope across the table. "I have everything. Conversations, hotel receipts, emails, everything he tried to hide. He's careless, but not stupid. We have to be careful." I nodded. "We won't make a single misstep. We expose him slowly, publicly, legally, one mistake at a time. And when the walls crumble around him, he'll finally understand what he lost." We spent hours mapping everything. Step 1. Ensure the law firm knew about the fraud and adultery. Step 2. Freeze his accounts and reveal the hidden transactions to the IRS. Step 3. Begin leaking selective evidence to his colleagues and clients, carefully, so he couldn't anticipate the exposure. By the evening, we had a schedule. I returned home to our house in Los Angeles, walking past the baby room. Tiny socks, baby blankets, ultrasound photos, all reminders of what he had tried to take from me. I placed them in the box and closed it, my hand steady. No tears. Only planning. The next morning, I sent a detailed email to his law firm, attaching bank records, hospital evidence, and texts between Ethan and Madison. I CC'd Julia Grant, my lawyer, ensuring that the firm could not ignore the submission. Within hours, Ethan was summoned by multiple partners. Calls flooded my phone from Madison updating me. He was furious, shouting and pleading, but it was too late. Then I posted selectively on social media, not his personal accounts, not mine, but through a carefully anonymous account tied to credible news sources. Excerpts of evidence, screenshots, documents that proved fraud and deception, public enough to attract attention but safe from direct legal retaliation. By nightfall, Ethan Brooks' reputation, carefully cultivated for years, was starting to crack. Friends began messaging Madison and me, confused, angry, seeking confirmation. His colleagues whispered behind his back. Rumors grew into reality. I sat on the couch watching the news alerts roll in. Every headline, every notification felt like a victory. And yet, I knew Ethan wouldn't take it quietly. Desperate men are the most dangerous, I smiled coldly. This was the moment I had been waiting for. The war had escalated. The battle lines were drawn, and Ethan Brooks had no idea that the most devastating blow was yet to come. The final week of the war began quietly, deceptively quiet. Los Angeles mornings carried the usual glow over the suburbs, but in our house, silence was heavy with anticipation. Every sound, the distant hum of traffic, the creak of floorboards, the faint buzz of my phone, felt like a countdown. I was no longer just Emily Brooks, a betrayed wife. I had become a strategist, a predator, a woman with all the evidence, all the leverage, and all the patience required to destroy the man who had stolen my life. Ethan Brooks didn't know it yet, but I controlled every piece of his world. The last 6 months had been my preparation, careful observation, meticulous collection of proof, and precise mapping of his network of lies. I had Madison Cole, my cousin-turned-reluctant ally, on my side. She had been scared at first, but now she understood that Ethan's web of deception was fragile. She had finally realized he had manipulated both of us, for his own greed and lust for control. Monday morning arrived. I woke before sunrise, as always, moving silently through the house. Ethan wasn't there. The bed was untouched, his side still warm from the night before. I poured myself a cup of coffee, black, no sugar, and walked to the living room with my laptop in hand. Every screen, every document, every folder was accounted for. Bank statements, hotel receipts, flight logs, text messages, emails, photos, hospital records, legal documents, Madison's first-hand testimony. Every single thing he had ever done to hide his duplicity was now in my possession. I started with the law firm. Julia Grant, my attorney, had advised me to hit them first. Ethan's reputation is everything, she had said. Expose him to the people who matter most before he even realizes the storm is coming. I drafted the email meticulously. Subject line: urgent, evidence of fraud and misconduct concerning Ethan Brooks. Inside, scanned documents, annotated screenshots, highlighted transactions, emails, photographs, every piece of evidence neatly organized. I sent it to the partners and senior associates at Carter, Blake & Rowe, ensuring Julia was CC'd to monitor replies. Within minutes, my phone buzzed. Madison's face appeared on FaceTime. Emily, oh my God. They called him in. They're asking questions. He looks like he's about to lose it. I smiled. Calm. Controlled. Good, let him panic. That's the beginning. By noon, Ethan had been summoned multiple times. Calls from clients, partners, and even colleagues. He was trapped in his own world of lies. The man who had once prided himself on control and charm was now sweating in boardrooms trying to explain, bluff, and manipulate. But no one believed him. Every claim he made could be disproven with the evidence I had supplied. By late afternoon, I knew it was time for the next step. Public exposure. Not too much to create legal risk for me, but enough to make Ethan feel the full weight of his actions. I created an anonymous email account connected to a credible local news outlet, attaching carefully curated evidence, a few strategically chosen documents, screenshots, and photographs. No direct names, just enough for insiders to connect the dots. By evening, social media had begun to hum. Whispers turned into threads. Threads turned into messages to journalists, and the story began to spread like wildfire. Ethan's clients noticed the leaks. Partners in the firm whispered behind closed doors. His phone never stopped buzzing. I sat back in my living room chair, crossing my legs, holding my coffee, watching the notifications roll in. For the first time in months, I felt the weight in my chest lift. Not because revenge was over, it wasn't, but because I knew the final confrontation would be mine to orchestrate. The next morning, Ethan showed up at our house unannounced. His usually confident posture was gone. Instead, he slouched, face pale, eyes darting nervously. "Emily, we need to talk," he said, voice strained. I didn't rise from the couch. "You're here too late," I said calmly. "The game started without you." He swallowed hard. "Please, I can fix this. I can make it right." I laughed, softly at first, then more sharply. The sound was deliberate, slicing through his bravado. "Fix this? Ethan, do you even understand what you've done? You built a secret life with my cousin, stole money from our accounts, falsified insurance documents, and lied every single day. There is nothing to fix." He ran a hand through his hair, desperate. "Emily, you're overreacting. You're being unfair." I stood slowly, towering over him. Every movement was measured. "Unfair? You think it was fair to steal from me, betray me, and manipulate everyone around you? No, Ethan. This is justice. And justice isn't supposed to feel fair to the guilty." He glanced at the nursery, the crib still in the box, the baby clothes folded on the shelves. His expression faltered. For the first time, I saw fear. Not anger, not arrogance, but raw, undeniable fear. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a folder, placing it on the dining table. I opened it slowly, revealing documents that proved everything. Bank transfers, emails, photos of him with Madison, hospital records, text conversations, every fraudulent move, every lie. "Look at this," I said, voice calm, deadly. "Everything you thought you could hide, it's all here. And now the world knows." He tried to snatch the folder. I pulled it back. "Do not touch it. You have no rights over this anymore." Ethan sank into a chair, head in his hands. "Emily, please, I can explain." "You can explain to the authorities," I replied. "Not me. Not anymore. And certainly not to anyone else who still trusts me." The room was silent except for his shaky breaths and the faint ticking of the clock. Then Madison walked in behind him. She had agreed to testify and bring everything she knew. Her presence was another knife twisting in his pride. "Emily's right," Madison said softly. "I know everything. I'll testify. I'll provide proof. You can't hide anymore." He turned, panic in his eyes. You're lying." I cut him off. "No. I am not lying, and neither is she. The empire you thought you built is gone, and every person who mattered now knows." The call from the law firm came seconds later. Julia Grant had ensured the partners were on a conference line. They were already reviewing the evidence live. Ethan was being formally suspended and internal investigations were underway. Bank accounts frozen, contracts terminated, clients notified. His career, reputation, everything he had worked for was collapsing around him. Ethan slumped further in the chair, silent this time. No words. No pleas, only realization. I walked to the nursery, standing there for a long moment, watching the quiet stillness. This room, this life, this child, none of it could be touched by him, and that realization fueled a peace I hadn't felt in months. That night, Ethan's phone rang endlessly. His emails flooded. Social media exposure escalated. Colleagues and clients were contacting him with questions and complaints. Every lie, every secret, every betrayal he had committed was now public, and there was no one to protect him. I held the baby in my arms, rocking gently. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the night and the faint city lights outside. For the first time, I realized something extraordinary. Revenge wasn't just about justice or punishment. It was about reclaiming your life, your power, and your future. And as Ethan Brooks sat alone, broken and defeated, I smiled. Because in this war, I didn't just survive. I had won. Not just legally, not just socially, not just financially. I had won emotionally, psychologically, morally. The betrayal, the lies, the manipulation, they had ended, and I had emerged stronger, unstoppable, untouchable. Ethan Brooks' empire was in ruins, his reputation shattered, his career destroyed, and me, I was free. The baby cooed softly in my arms. A new life, untarnished by the man who had tried to steal everything. I whispered to the tiny child. This is your world now, and no one will ever take it from us. Outside, the Los Angeles skyline glittered like victory, and inside, in our home, the final chapter had been written. The war was over, the revenge complete. And for Ethan Brooks, there was nothing left.